Hello guys, welcome to today's show, and today it's going to be all about filmmaking, I guess techniques, but forgetting about all the equipment, just concentrating on the fundamentals. And I'm going to explain a little bit in a bit, but we'll go through it, through all of it. And we got Lucas here.
Hi everyone.
In person, live. And also the whole idea, I guess, for the show was actually kind of based on a bunch of comments that we got on YouTube. On the last video where I announced that I'm going to be giving away this gimbal. So we got the gimbal from Feiyutech. This is for iPhones. You can actually check on all the info in the link of this video in the description. It's for iPhones, for various other mobile phones. You can kind of check for GoPro cameras, some action cameras, things like that. Yeah, it looks like a really cool gimbal. So if you guys want this gimbal, then you can enter this contest, and the contest is going to be pretty simple. Lucas, you want to explain?
Yeah, we're just writing the rules right now as we speak, but we just want to keep it simple. So basically, so it's the video up to 2 minutes in length, because I think we figured it's enough time for you to show off your skills, right?
Yeah.
And it can be video gets shot, whenever, even if you already have a video like that, but if you can come up something new, that would be really great.
And literally, like, up to 2 minutes. The reason why we're saying that is also because we don't want you guys to go overboard and do something like, it could even be, I don't know, if you can make something in 20 seconds look really cool, why not, right?
Yeah.
But it's
also it should be shot on a mobile device.
Yeah, and the reason is because the gimbal's for mobile phones mainly, so that's why we're thinking of doing that.
Well, maybe we'll go back why we want to kind of, what's the advantage of
doing that
it on
too,
mobile, but let's just, so the submission deadline is October 4th, and the winner will be announced on this show on Sunday, October 8th. And in the video there is a link to the page where we've got the submission form and all of this information we just conveyed. But yeah, like, why we're also doing it on mobile is because I guess shooting it with a camera on a smartphone is limiting in many ways, but it can be an advantage because we're trying to get you guys to focus on things that maybe sometimes we don't focus on when we've got great lenses, very fancy camera and so on. So this way, by keeping things simpler, maybe we can kind of take the focus to some basic skills, right?
Yeah. And
Tom will be talking about today about what those skills that sometimes maybe are ignored or not, people are not taking advantage of.
Basically what I'm talking about is, I guess the basics, the fundamentals, the cinematography 101 of the skills really that matter, before you start even worrying about all the gear, because honestly, having good gear, having a nice camera, good optics, all that stuff, it matters and makes a big difference. But if you get caught up with that right away and you don't learn about the things like composition, framing, production design, like basically most of the things pretty much are things in front of your camera. If you don't take care of that stuff, doesn't matter how good of a camera you have or how well you learn the menu system in that camera or how expensive your lenses are, it's just your shots are not going to look good. So that's why, in a way, by creating this simple contest where, like, literally could be a film, music video, I mean, I have no idea, whatever you guys want to create, some kind of a funny video, but by shooting it on a mobile phone, you're going to be very limited because, there are some mobile phones that have like better cameras or multiple cameras, but most will just have a simple camera here, no fancy, like lenses or optics that you can attach. Now, most phones also can shoot decent video, right? At least like 720p. But even if your phone, you have some really, really old crappy phone that can't even shoot HD video, who cares? Still, you can shoot it on a phone. But you're going to be very limited, right? On a phone, you can't really attach any things, any accessories.
What if somebody attach some fancy lenses to their iPhone?
Well, there are these little things you can buy, and again, it's up to you guys. If you want to do it, but that's not what we're going to be looking for. We're not going to be looking at, like when we're judging the films, we're not going to be looking at, because they shot it with some better lens or whatever, and we'll be able to tell right away. And
I'm not sure it's going to help you if you do it, because it's going to look nicer, but we'll be trying to kind of filter that out, and in a way maybe might be worse off for you if you're trying to we try to reimagine the video without the effect of those fancy lenses, right?
I would say, just like I said, by shooting on a phone, you're going to be forced to not, because there's only so much you can do with the phone camera, to actually go and work on all the other things that really matter. And those are things that I think are the most important when you're learning. Like I said, I'm not saying having a good camera, all that stuff, or that you should be going off doing professional jobs, shooting them on your phone. It's not what I'm saying. I'm just simply saying there's too many people who kind of jump, you know, ahead and start worrying about all the camera gear, lenses, and things like that without worrying about the fundamentals of cinematography. And what are the fundamentals? It's kind of like, in a way, like that video that I talked about, you know, last week, which was you know, talking about framing. I would say the first and most important thing probably is the framing. And there's a few tutorials. I mean, well, there's a whole bunch of tutorials that I already did, and I can actually show you guys up here. This is one such tutorial here. You can see, you know, this is for a music video that I shot a few years back, and again, it wasn't a big budget video, but it was all about, you know, mainly using the, you know, those cinematography techniques. And in this tutorial, I kind of show you how I achieved this shot. Basically here of the singer in front of a pool, and just trying to make it look interesting, right? And I also kind of show you how most people start. It's kind of the mistakes that they make, is that, like, when you look at it here, this is when we were kind of just looking around at the location. First shot looks like this, right? We have a pool, we have a, you know, our actor, subject, whatever, in this case a performer, and that's it, right? And most people just, like, you know, get the basic framing and they're like, okay, that's good. But they don't think about, you know, like, what's exactly behind the you know, your subject, what's in front, all that stuff. But the big thing is working on the lighting. And that's actually one thing I would also say about this whole contest, is that if you're gonna do a video, I mean, like I said, a phone, and don't even worry about lighting. If you want to do some lighting, great, do it, you know, especially if you're shooting at night, you're going to need some lighting. But otherwise, go out there in the middle of the day and just use the available light that you have, because there's so much that you can do with just the available light, whether it's, you know, twilight, morning, sunrise, or just middle of the day, like here in this example that I'm showing. And that's kind of what I want you guys to kind of, you know, concentrate. And as you can see, most people would just probably be like, point the camera like this, get this shot and record the take, and they'll be happy with it. And then that's the reason why their videos, you know, their shots don't look as good. And when you have this kind of a shot, doesn't matter whether you're using an expensive camera or you're shooting this on a phone, the difference is going to be minimal. There's going to be difference, obviously, in maybe it's going to be, you know, if you have a higher quality camera, it'll be a bit sharper, the highlights maybe will be handled better, all that stuff. But it's not going to hide the fact that the shot itself is just boring looking. There was no thought put into it. Whereas if you actually take the time to walk around, you see here I'm trying out different angles. Here we have the sun, and sometimes you want the sun directly hitting your subject's face. So in this case, you know, let's say I decide this is the kind of lighting that I want, it looks good, okay, then, you know, you start adding other elements to it, for example, to make it more interesting. In the end, I end up actually going, as you can see here, and I'm by the way using just the Panasonic GH4 in this example and hand holding it, that's it. And in the end, I end up telling the performer here to go and stand with the sun to his back. You can see the sun is directly there, you can see the shadow. So it's not actually lighting his face, it's not creating any kind of harsh shadows on his face. And this is, again, just, you know, fundamentals of using the available light that you have. And as you can see, this way we don't have any of these harsh shadows on his face, we don't have any, like, these imperfections kind of popping up. But in a way, the cool thing is that the sun now is acting like a nice edge light, like a rim light. So it's lighting his shoulders here, his head. And with that, then I kind of can, you know, look at it and kind of decide, okay, is there something else that I can add to the shot to make it look more interesting? Maybe change the camera angle a little bit. You know, like I said, change my position. That's another really, really big thing. And I think that's something that's very, very important when you're limited with your gear. And that's also the cool thing about shooting on a phone, is you're going to be limited to the lens that you have on your phone, and whatever the focal length is going to be, and usually it's going to be somewhere around like 24mm equivalent to like a, you know, a 35mm full frame. So when you have that kind of a lens on your phone, you're gonna, like I said, you're gonna have to think about not just like, oh, like, you know, like we would with the camera, oh, I'll just zoom in or zoom out. You're actually gonna have to think about where I am in space, and sometimes moving forward to closer to your subject, a few feet, or further back, can make a drastic change. So, you know, experiment with that kind of stuff. And like I said, you can do a lot of things. And there's actually been some big movies, right, shot. I know there's one film.
Tangerine, that was shot on iPhone, right? Tangerine.
Oh yeah, that was in the shot. But I'm saying even like films that were shot with like one lens.
Oh, I'm not sure about that.
You remember the filmmakers from Quebec? in Canada that shot the film with Reese Witherspoon. Do you remember their name?
Oh, one Wild. You mean?
Yeah, Wild. Yeah.
But was that shot on the phone though? On those shots?
No. I'm talking
Just
about
one lens,
with one lens, right?
Yeah.
So that what's their name? Do you remember the filmmakers?
Oh,
Come on, Lucas.
oh my gosh, just blinking out. But
anyways, maybe we'll come back to you. But yeah, these are
well,
filmmakers.
Villeneuve is the last name, but I forgot the.
They're talented filmmakers, and what I mean by that is, even though they're working with, they're working obviously with big stars, so you have to have a certain budget.
Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah, but they're doing films with big stars, and they're shooting them on a actually fairly low budget, right? To be able to get those stars. Like, literally, most of the budget goes to paying these stars.
Okay, I missed out. No, I've confused the Quebec directors. It's Jean-Marc Vallée.
Oh, okay. So, so if you guys, like I said, if you guys look at those films, like whether it's Wild with Reese Witherspoon, that was they used various lenses, but majority of that film was shot on just one lens, the 50mm. But there's another film they did with Matthew McConaughey,
the million. It's the
Dallas Buyers, Dallas Buyers, $1 million Dallas Buyers Club, something
like that. We are blanking out here.
And that was a film, I believe, it won some big awards, right?
Yeah, because it won the Oscar for Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, so so he won. Matthew McConaughey, won an Oscar, and I think it was nominated for a bunch of other really big awards. And that whole film. What is it?
Dallas Buyers Club. That's the
name of it?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the Dallas Buyers Club, and it's that whole film, if you guys can believe it, was shot on one lens, a 50mm lens. And yes, they had like a bigger, more expensive, you could say, lens, but again, when you look at comparisons between a really expensive 50mm lens versus like the Nifty 50 from Canon, or now there's even another company, it's a Chinese company that makes them for like $50, you can get a $150 lens and shoot a whole film on it, and I would tell you guys, watch that movie just for that. Like, even if you don't care about the story, just turn off the sound, but look at visually the shots in that whole film, and you're gonna see what they were able to do with a 50mm lens, just one lens. So again, it's about creativity, about in terms of where you are, where you place the camera, and again, like I said, how far, how close, but even the angles, sometimes slightly going up higher, hide certain things, in a frame behind the other subject, or vice versa, going lower, things like that. So those are the kind of things that you want to, basically work on. So as you can see in this example, that's kind of what I did. I kind of already decided on the lens. I know it's a close-up shot of him. I don't want to show much around there because I just want to show the water behind them, right, mainly. And there was a decent, like a nice looking pool area, but there were some garbage bins around there and other things. So because of that, we just didn't want to show too much of other things. But I right away saw that to add this kind of a nice punch in his face and then a nice reflection in the singer's eyes, I needed to put a reflector basically in there. And this is a reflector that you can buy for like $20. There's some even you can buy literally for $5 online. But I maybe wouldn't recommend buying such a cheap reflector because it might just fall apart on you in the middle of a job. But again, if that's all you can afford, then that's all you can afford. There's even a video I might show you guys quickly where I literally built my own reflector for I think like $5. So using some tinfoil and cardboard. But anyway, so you see different reflectors, and there's some usually when you get the ones kind of all-in-one reflector, will have like a white surface, a silver, and then like a golden kind of surface. And I just try out, the kind of the angle, how I'm going to bounce the light. I know I don't want the light to be like directly on his face, so a little bit side lit. And so you just play around with the angle, and you can see by putting the white reflector right away, it makes you can see that the lighting looks better than without any reflector. But it also adds a bit more definition, right? Because you're actually now with that reflector, you can see you having some like a bit of like kind of shadows and lighter areas on his face. So this here on his left side of the face is a little bit brighter, and then you see more of a definition on his nose and things like that. But in the end, with color grading, this is kind of how it looks. In the end, I decided to go for like a really, because it's a hip hop music video. He's got some bling on his neck there, and we wanted to go really, bling it out basically in this video. So we added a little bit more of this kind of a golden color by using the golden reflector side, and also has more of a punch, so it creates even more of a definition. You can see these shadows now around his nose, and that kind of stuff. So yeah, anyway, so this is kind of what I end up doing, and then just adding like a simple reflector, figuring out your angle though, you know, getting the right angle towards your location, but also towards the sun, right? Towards your light source. And then at the end, you just do color grading, and you know, this is how the finished shot looks. So you can definitely, you know, do some really cool stuff, like I said, without spending $1 million and get a really cool result. Let me show you actually another quick shot here. Where is it? Here's the one, like a tutorial. Again, this is all stuff you can find online on my YouTube channel. And this is just like this kind of shoot on a beach I did, kind of a bikini basically. I was taking photos of you know, basically like a bikini photo shoot. And you can see first kind of angle, and you know, the weather wasn't that great. The lighting wasn't maybe the best, simply because there wasn't a very strong, nice sun. So because of that, again, it kind of looks very blah. But even then, light still has a direction, especially when you're around buildings and structures. So here, because I was kind of under this little cabana there, what ended up happening is there was a lot of this kind of just dark, muted light falling on her face. There wasn't enough of a definition. And so in that sense, it actually, you know, it made basically more sense for me to kind of rotate the whole scene around. Also, I just didn't like the backdrop, like those kind of the cabanas there behind there. It just didn't look very nice. So I ended up rotating kind of the whole scene and going basically from the other side now, where the sun is going to be a bit more stronger. And to do and for our reflector, literally you can see what I did is I took a piece of cardboard, took some tin foil, literally cost me, I think it was like $3 or $5, and I taped it all to this piece of cardboard, and that was it. That was our reflector, and it worked. Now, you know, like I said, by buying a reflector maybe for $20, you're gonna have something that will last you longer. This thing, you know, after basically, I would say probably after a month of heavy use, will probably end up falling apart on you. But you can still use it in a pinch. You can use pretty much anything. And anyways, yeah, as you can see here, that's what we end up, you know, having this kind of, you can see, you know, this kind of shots. And again, I kind of try out different angles. And if you watch the whole tutorial that I did about this whole shoot, and you'll see kind of me explaining about different camera settings and things like that, and why I do certain things to kind of add extra, you know, little touches towards the end. And then obviously the color grading is a very important thing. So I even show you in this tutorial exactly how I color graded step by step, so you can kind of watch that. So I end up with kind of different shots, like something like this in here in this example. Yeah, and then like I said, there's many other things you can do. Maybe, you know, like I said, aside from, I would say the first step definitely is composition, and that's kind of what I already talked about in the video last week. Framing, deciding on the angle, like I said, an angle towards your location, but towards the available light that you have. And then the next thing is, if, you know, using like modifying or controlling that available light that you have. So like I said, you don't have to have expensive lights. You can literally just use the sun. Or at night if you're using, you know, I don't know, street lamps or something, but you can use those lights in an interesting way by moving your scene around, moving your subject, your camera, but also by, let's say, bouncing the light, you know, deflecting the light, diffusing it, doing things like that. And there's another tutorial that I have. This is actually from my lighting dozen set of tutorials that I. This one is actually it's like a little video I did about showing basically what you can do with like a simple backdrop. And this is like a backdrop that, you know, this one actually you have to pay for it, but you can build one yourself. So you can put a black material, you can put a white material on it, and you can achieve different effects. So you see here, I'm shooting using the sun, and I got that kind of a shot, right? Now here I'm putting the white kind of sheet, so which was going to diffuse the light, and I'm again taking a scene that looks like this otherwise without any diffusion. And you know, I already, like I said, got my framing and everything, and this is how it looks once you add the diffusion. And I actually end up adding another little reflector there on the right side, and just kind of adjusting the lighting there. So with the reflector further, and this thing actually is one that I built by myself. I forget how much it costs, but like literally you can build these for, you know, depends on where you live and how much these parts are going to cost you, but just requires some plastic tubing or pieces of wood even. You could build something like this for $20–30, so it definitely is not expensive. You can see I'm using some plumbing, you know, pipes and things like that, and then some old bed sheets, and I stretch them out over here, use some tape, and I create this nice big giant basically diffusion screen, or silk screen, whatever you want to call it. And again, if you watch the whole tutorial, I can explain how I build it and why, and I also did it so that I can pack it up nicely and take it with me on location. And that screen does exactly what these professional screens do. So, you know, you don't always have to spend the money. It's just having something more professional is, again, once you're at that level where you're getting paid clients and everything, then you can invest in more expensive gear and something that's going to last you longer, be more durable, easier to set up maybe. But at the beginning, you can just make yourself some simple lighting tools like this one you can see, and you can get some really cool effects, as you guys saw in those examples there. Let me show you another here example that we have. This is actually from my Lighting Dozen series of tutorials that you can get on my website. It costs $30, and anyways, I show you basically a whole bunch of shots that you can get, and one of these shots is like this one. So this is simple static shot, and again, you can add camera movement, all these things, and this is just using the sun. And I know many people were kind of surprised when I told them that there was no lighting in here whatsoever.
Well, there was lighting, but it was no
artificial lighting. No artificial lighting. Yeah, it was basically lights that we added.
Because when there's no lighting, it's not very interesting.
So exactly. So you do want to pay attention to your lighting.
Being creative, right?
Yeah, I guess using the available light, right? Yeah, and that's kind of what all these tutorials are about. We'll show you 12 tutorials where that's exactly what we show you, all kinds of lighting situations, and we show you how to best use the light at different times of day, even different times of year, different locations, to get cool looking shots. As you can see here right away, again, I worry about my camera angle basically of my subject to the light. And again, in this case, I backlit her, so the sun is behind her. You can see the shadow here in front of her. And once I'm kind of, and I also am looking around then for the angle up here, like what's behind her. So because there's some other like these wires there in this garden, things like that, I end up kind of moving here a little bit over and changing my framing so that we're not seeing that stuff as much, right? And that's kind of the framing that I end up getting. And then we end up putting the screen you can see over her, because without the screen, the sun was kind of very harsh. And in this case, I didn't want this very harsh backlighting, so we end up putting that diffusion screen, which again, you can buy a professional one like this, or you can build the cheap one that I showed you guys in the other video, and how to build. And we put that so that she's still getting nicely backlit, but the lighting is a lot softer, right? And then the next thing we do is we put a reflector, again, one of those cheap reflectors.
Then we put Lucas on a ladder, and
yeah, so my brother here climbing the ladder, and he was
so
my light.
Not all of our equipment was very professional, but
no. But that's all it took, right? And he basically, again, so we're using the sun to provide nice soft backlighting on her, and then again the sun we're bouncing off of a reflector to provide this nice direct sun on her face from the front. You can see here he's holding it, and I think he got tired very quickly, right? That's the one thing that sucks about doing these kind of simple setups. Well, definitely you don't want to be having somebody hold something like that up for too long. But anyways, by adding that reflection, you can see right away, you can see this without it. And then here, Lucas is going to be pointing that reflector. You can see the kind of difference that it creates. And
now, did we get the Caroline to actually? She ended up with sunglasses or not? Because that was one problem, right?
Well, she decided for two things. The sunglasses worked out because otherwise it was hard for her to look up. She could look kind of lower, but looking up directly into sun like that, it would be difficult. But that's also like, this is what I call this traditional Hollywood starlet lighting. And where you have this kind of direct light that's slightly above the subject's face, and it creates those nice shadows under the chin, under the cheekbones, and really creates definition to the face. And this is kind of like when you look at those old, from the 60s, 50s, even like the Marilyn Monroe kind of photos, you'll see that that's kind of what the kind of lighting that they use a lot. And then in the end, I kind of here even in these tutorials, if you get the tutorials, you'll see exact camera settings I put in there and why and all that stuff I explained. But this is basically the shot that I got, and then afterwards it's just a matter of adding the color grading, and which again in this tutorial I show you exactly step by step how I do that, and then this is kind of the shot that you end up with. So this is the finished product, and as you can see, just using the available light again, and this, like I said, if you get all those techniques right, but the only thing you didn't have is, let's say, the exact same camera that I have, I can guarantee you guys that just by getting those shots with another camera, let's say even your phone camera, the shot is not going to look that much different. There's going to be obviously some differences with the frame, maybe the angle, the framing, and things like that. The depth of field, maybe if you're using a smaller sensor like in a cell phone, but people will look past it because they're just seeing a nicely designed shot. And what I mean by that is locations, you know, the lighting is used to, you know, the best that you can. Things like that, you know, the costumes, even like the clothing, all of that stuff, you know, makes a difference. So paying attention to what's in front of your camera is, I think, the key to getting good shots, right? You know, good cinematography fundamentals. And those are things that, again, you can easily forget about, I guess, those things when you get all caught up in the gear and, okay, I have this expensive camera, but now I need to get this expensive lens, and then what are the settings I should be using, or maybe I should put some filters in front of it, like all these things. Those things you can build on top of all those things, you know, basically, like you can learn all those things once you learn the basics of cinematography, which, like I said, is the key.
There's also, you did the video recently about the pro hacks.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I talked about last week.
So I was just wondering how many of these would actually you could take advantage of in this project, right? So first one is the angle and the framing. So that's pretty much one of the two things I think we're talking about today is angle framing, and the other is lighting, right? So so Tom, here in that video, the pro hacks is number one is angle and framing. Number two is shallow depth of field. Well, now with the smartphone cameras, you won't have much of you won't have control over that unless you use the
one big thing I say in that video too is you don't have to use all these techniques. Like it's a combination, and you don't always want to have shallow depth of field. So like when you're shooting, for example, you know, something where you want to show the location, like shallow depth of field is used more to distract people and basically tell your audience, don't look at this part of the scene, I just want you to look at what's in focus. That's really what you're doing. But sometimes you want to have this wide depth of field where everything's sharp and focused, because you want the audience to pay attention to, let's say, a cool location, or maybe if it's like a landscape shot, you want to pay attention, you know.
Or even of like, you know, these suspense movies where you're not sure, like, you know, something's coming out of a corner, but you don't know where. So then everything is sharp. It's like, you know, the audience is anticipating, not sure.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, number three here is slow motion. So actually, many cell phone cameras nowadays do allow you to shoot in slow motion, especially if you go 1080p, right? Yeah,
but even if you have a phone that can't shoot slow motion, don't worry about it. Shoot it whatever regular speed, and then in your editing software, you can so easily slow it down. You know, now you can even interpolate frames. But even if you don't do that, it just has this kind of, you know, you repeat certain frames. It's gonna look cool. It's gonna have a cool slow motion effect.
But maybe for the idea you're going, you don't actually need slow motion.
Yeah, exactly. And that's again one of the
maybe you want to speed up. I don't know. Maybe you want to speed up. You know,
that's again
the frame rates.
Yeah.
Another one, number 4 here is the fill light. So again, that's something, you know, people should take advantage of on this project, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then number 5, soft glow. So now this one talks about using Vaseline on the lens. So I guess
you can put it on your phone. I mean, phones lenses are so well designed, you can easily wipe it off. But you can even just use, you know, other things to diffuse to create that kind of a soft effect if it makes sense. Like I said, there's some scenes where you don't want to have a softening effect. There's some where you do. So again, it's up to you.
Number 6 here. How would that work? Doing the light flares. So here you would put the same.
Oh, that works the same. You take
with a small lens like that, it's still you're going to get a nice effect.
Yeah, because what's really happening is, like, if you take this, you know, little, like, you know, rough edges of piece of glass or something, you're just basically bouncing that light, and you want to do it so that it's kind of hitting your lens. Okay. And that's really all it takes. So yeah, you can definitely do it with the cell phone. So you can still create those kind of light effects, right? You could say.
Okay, and the last hack here you had listed is the color grading,
which I would say you always want to do. So
even when the footage doesn't have, you know, such a high bit rate and so on, like from
it's just you maybe don't want to go crazy overboard with like pushing the colors, because you might, you know, like
make it worse.
Cell phone footage, it's gonna break apart quicker. Yeah. But you can still do it, and you know, there was actually, I think, a film that somebody submitted to us. I think it was shot on a cell phone, right? From India. Somebody submitted a film, and it was from India, and they did color grading, and it would look really cool. Like when I first saw it, I didn't even know it was on a cell phone. And then I just read the description, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we shot on a cell phone," and because it was so well color graded, like it looked just cinematic right away. So, you know, I've seen examples, and I mean, you even said that there were films that won awards, right? That were shot completely on a cell phone.
Well, the Tangerine movie, that's got a very kind of unique, it's got color grading that really stands out, and that was shot on an iPhone, right? So that footage was able to handle quite a bit of maybe, you know, also maybe it actually, you know, just this aggressive color grading that they had, maybe it helped also kind of
sometimes you can
cover
mask, yeah.
in the mask the guess the lower quality of video, right?
Yeah. Although iPhone video is pretty good.
That's good.
iPhone, that's the one thing I'll give to iPhone. Otherwise, I'm not a big fan. But
I'm not sure actually. I don't know. More people are saying Android
is better. Well, I mean,
it depends on the video also.
It depends on the camera.
Right?
Yeah. There's some great Android phones these days, that thing. But anyways, again, we don't want to get caught up in the technical things. Whatever phone you have, you guys can use. But that's, and again, I hope this is a challenge that's gonna, again, you don't have to spend big money on this. It's just like literally go out there with your friends and shoot something. Maybe it's all one take. Like I did a video, we did a video once which again was shot on a Canon 7D, but literally might have been shot on a cell phone because we did not change the lens, we did not zoom in or zoom out, and I actually had very deep depth of field because it was helpful for that. Where literally it was all shot in one take, just this effect, like kind of a music video. So you can maybe just do like a one take video, something for whatever 20 seconds up to 2 minutes, I don't know, and just make it look interesting, maybe funny, make it clever, whatever it is, whether you want to tell a story or or just some kind of like a cool visual thing. I mean, I'll leave it up to you guys, but just have fun with it. And I hope this little challenge, like these are the little things that literally I do. I'll give myself sometimes a challenge of like, what could I do? Let's say if I just have this, this piece of gear, or in this case a cell phone. What is it that I could do? Because it really forces you to think outside of the box. Because otherwise you're usually going to start with, okay, I have this camera, so I'm going to for sure use this camera, and then these lenses. So then I know already I can like you have these preconceived ideas. Where if somebody tells you, no, use this or use that, and it's in a way where, like I said, you're not. It forces you basically to use these simpler tools that you can't do much with them because there's only so much you can do with the cell phone camera. Then I think it's going to force you then to be like, okay, so how can I make it interesting? Since I can't make it interesting by changing the camera settings or adding some lenses, then how can I make it interesting by doing all these other filmmaking techniques? Just basically good cinematography, basically I would say skills, using them to make my images look more interesting and tell a story maybe or something like that. So those are the things that I would encourage you guys to do. And actually kind of talking about doing the using the available light and using basically limited resources. Here's like this is just a trailer for this the lighting doesn't, like one of the examples that I showed you was from this. See here, like this shot we got just using the sun, and I can explain how we do it exactly, all the camera settings, and these are these tutorials that we've had on our website, and you can still get them. And again, it applies to all the cameras pretty much. Doesn't matter what camera you have, and it doesn't really matter if you have a light or not, because it's all these tutorials in here. I show you like literally all you need is a reflector pretty much, or things that you can build yourself, like that diffusion screen. So you don't really have to spend money on any gear. Just use your camera, again, could even be your cell phone camera, and just follow these examples that I do up here, and you can get all these different cool kind of effects. Just like I said, using those basic cinematography 101 kind of, I would say, techniques, things that really matter. And that's kind of, see here I use this, created there a reflector using those kind of sun reflection screens for the cars, so you can even use that. Or like you saw in the other video, the bikini photo shoot, you can even use just tinfoil on a piece of cardboard, so you can create a reflector that way. So yeah, there's a lot of cool things that you can do just with using the available light, and again, this is just one of the tutorials that I have, so if you guys want, check it out. And I think that's it, right? I don't know if there's any questions.
There's a few comments we can. Yeah. One is from Dark Horse. He's saying that Filmic Pro, he recommends it, this app for iPhone. I'm not sure what it does, but he says it's an amazing app for iPhone filming.
Oh, okay.
So you guys might want to check it out. Filmic Pro.
It's an application, okay.
It's an app, yeah, for iPhone.
Maybe you can write in there and let us know what it actually does, because
I guess people, yeah, I mean, we'll look it up afterwards, yeah. Also here, Kevin from Car Galaxy Studios is saying, yeah, for sure, thanks. Color correction, doing color correction makes sense, but what about grading? Is it grading optional? So I guess that's the distinction, you know, between there's color correction, there's color grading, right? You know, I guess those are not quite the same things, but I mean, in terms of
they are the same, and they're just they're using the same tools. It's just you are trying to achieve something different. Color correction, usually what we refer to as color correction is you're trying to balance a shot. So maybe not stylize it, giving it a specific look. You just want it to look as close as what you saw with your eyes when you were getting that scene.
Right.
So that's what you're doing. You know, making sure that all the whites are white, you know, and blacks are nice, true blacks, and all that stuff. You know, in between.
So
whereas color grading is
it's more creative.
You're changing the look of it, stylizing it. Maybe you make it all look very kind of sepia tone or black and white or things like that. So that's really what the difference is. Yeah.
And yeah, it depends really, Kevin. Depends on your video, on your idea, whether you need color grading or not.
What's the goal of it?
It's up to you to decide, right? Cannot generalize really, but and here, okay. What frame did you shoot those tutorials at, like the examples you were showing? Usually you shoot at 24 frames, right?
Yeah, 24. Now there was the one shot there with the girl with the glasses, and where she, you know, we're kind of making it look like a Hollywood kind of starlet. I show in the tutorial, like if you get that tutorial, because that one is the one I have to pay for. It's if I show you different camera settings, and there's version that I shoot just regular speed, 24 frames per second, and then there's a version where I shoot, I believe it was like 96 frames per second because it was on the GH4, or 60 frames per second, something like that. And it kind of creates this, you know, it's this nice slow motion effect, right?
Right. Off topic, but do you know when the GH5 firmware is coming out?
No, I mean, they released one right recently that has some cool updates. I no longer have the GH5, so I wasn't even able to try it out. But the one that I guess that people are really waiting for, I mean, it's still, I guess, being delayed. I don't know what the problem is.
What did they say originally? They said later, 2017. They didn't say fall or anything like that, right?
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah,
I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah.
I thought I was under the impression that by August they said that they were going to release it, but maybe I misheard it. It's one of those hearsay whatever, like on the internet somebody said another person, and then by the time you hear it, it's like yeah, you don't know if it's true. But yeah, anyways, I think we're gonna be maybe wrapping up. If there's unless there's some other questions or things, but.
Okay. So some people are actually answering the question about what's Filmic Pro, like Dark Horse and Jaikavi. So just
keep the conversation going. But again, if you want the Feiyutech gimbal for your iPhone, Android phone, or Action Hero, GoPro cameras, whatever, it's a pretty cool advanced gimbal. You guys can check out all the information about this gimbal actually down below in the description of this video. There's a link so you can see kind of. I think right now it retails for just over $200. So yeah, it's like a cool little gimbal, and again, if you manage to shoot something on a mobile device, then boom, you can use that gimbal then later to add extra production value to your video and shoot something else on your mobile device. So hopefully you guys have fun with this contest. Like I said, don't take it too seriously, but at the same time, just try to come up with something cool. Like I said, it doesn't have to be crazy elaborate, big production, but try to make it most as interesting as you can, and kind of that's how we're gonna be, I guess, picking the winner based on that. So yeah, and then just to kind of a recap, the submissions are gonna be by the end of October 4th, right?
Yeah, so it's deadline last day is October 4th. So
October 4th
includes October 4th. Yeah. I guess we'll go with our time frame, but the time zone or anywhere in the world. As long as in this planet it's still October 4th, we'll accept it. So
we'll accept
whatever is the last time zone.
So October 4th, and just up to 2 minutes, just to make it longer. Like if you shot already something on the phone that looks cool, but it's longer, just cut it down so it's 2 minutes, so that we can feature it on the show, because so we can concentrate on each submission.
And if it's a really cool, cool video that you want to share with people, then of course every Sunday, there's an opportunity to have your videos shown, so you can always submit the full version, right? Because I know sometimes it sucks, like when somebody forces you to kind of cut it in half, especially if it's like story based. So, but we would love to see it and show it to other people.
Maybe you can edit like a 2-minute trailer of your full project. That
could be a feature film.
Yeah. So that, and then otherwise just have fun with it. And like I said, if you want to do lighting, if you want to do some crazy things and attach lenses to your things, go for it. But You know, but if literally it's going to be, you know, mainly just looking for, you know, making it creative. Because also I'll tell you guys, if you pay attention to those, these are simple techniques in a way, those basic cinematography, you know, techniques. If you pay attention to those, then after that, you know, the audience will kind of forgive you very quickly, or forget even what you're shooting this on your project, as long as you have something entertaining, right? Whether it's like a good scary, you know, video, or funny, or, you know, whatever, like something good music with it or something like that. The audience is going to very quickly forget about that stuff because they're drawn in by the actual content of the video. So that's kind of how we're going to be judging it, right? Is we kind of want to almost forget about the fact that you shot it on a mobile device. So and that's it. If there's any questions, let me know. But if not, then let's wrap it up. And yeah, and then we'll see you guys next week. And again, we'll do, I guess, a follow-up about this contest, remind you guys. But again, October 4th.
I'm going to stay online here a little bit longer to answer some questions regarding the contest. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. But otherwise, then let's finish. So, anyways, thank you guys. It was fun. And I guess, yeah, we can stay online a little bit, answer some questions. But otherwise, see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye now.